Devil May Cry is one of my favorite video game series of all time. In my opinion, it has some of the best hack and slash games ever created in its catalog. As a big fan of the series, you can imagine my excitement when a new animated adaptation was announced by Netflix. Of course, Netflix is extremely hit or miss with their shows and adaptations, but they did give us Cyberpunk Edgerunners, which is one of my favorites, so I held out hope that the DMC show would be decent, if not great. The release day finally came around after years of waiting, and I stayed up late to see what Adi Shankar and his team were cooking for so many years. Well, in short, I, and many other fans of the series, have thoughts on this portrayal. Let's break it down. In my opinion, Netflix's 8-episode Devil May Cry adaptation isn't all that bad. Now, for some reason, even uttering that sentence online right now, specifically on Twitter, can get an angry mob of DMC fans in your mentions telling you you're a tourist of the series or your opinion is invalid, because theirs is actually the correct one. But I'll talk more about the community reaction to the series in a bit. To start, the Devil May Cry series has existed for over 20 years at this point, with 5 mainline games and 1 reboot that the community really doesn't like to talk about. I've played every single one of them, with DMC 3 and 5 being my favorites. Going in, I'd hoped that this show would capture the action, charm, and the beloved characters that I've come to love after playing through all of these games. After watching the show, I'd say at least some of my wishes got fulfilled. This adaptation revolves around the White Rabbit, a demon that is trying to open a portal between Makai, which is hell, and the human world, which would result in Armageddon. Meanwhile, the half-demon, half-man main character of Dante, along with Earth's government forces, are all trying to stop his plan to end humanity. In my humble opinion, the story is solid, but it does have its flaws. The show is also paced pretty well, but it falls apart near the end. The main villain's motivation overall is very believable, and episode 6 stands out in the show for both its animation and storytelling, along with effectively conveying the villain's backstory to the viewer. I also really liked Dante in this portrayal. He has the charm and the feel of the Dante from the games. His quips fit in the show well, and some of his jokes actually made me laugh. I'm glad it didn't come off as forced. And I think Johnny Young Bosch did an amazing job of taking on the role. Even though it can be easy to hear him as Nero as he usually plays him in the games, I was still able to thoroughly enjoy this performance. My only issue with this Dante was the inconsistency of his powers, because one moment he's running around like Quicksilver with the world in slow motion, and the next he's getting tased by a regular gun. Just make it make sense, you know? If he's gonna be OP, then keep him OP. Don't nerf him for the sake of the plot. The other characters in the show are also pretty great though. I enjoyed seeing all of these familiar demons battle Dante, along with all the other characters introduced in this adaptation. That is, for one very large exception. Now, if you're familiar with the games, then you probably know who I'm about to talk about. This character is a fan favorite from the franchise, and was also introduced in DMC 3, which is the game this show takes the most inspiration from. Of course, I'm talking about Rudra. Why did they make him Australian? Everyone knows it's Lady. Obviously it's Lady. I was really excited to see how the show handled her characterization. And at first, I was really hopeful. Her initial introduction was solid. Her ability to identify a demon disguised as a human was a really cool scene. But as the show goes on, you get to see more and more of her. You start to notice how much she loves cursing. You start to notice how self-righteous she is. You start to notice her winning fights against Dante that realistically wouldn't even have been close if this were canon. In summary, Lady becomes a very annoying and unlikable character by the end of the season. She also gets what feels like more screen time than Dante, and the more time you spend with her, the less you actually want to see her. She's a skilled fighter like she is in the games and has a traumatic backstory involving her parents, but besides those two things, she might as well have been a different character. The Lady of the games has a hard exterior, but eventually she opens up to Dante after trying to kill him for most of DMC 3. After that game, the two are good friends and respect each other as capable fighters. In the show though, she constantly undermines and calls Dante names, treating him like shit for really no explained reason. You could say it's her hatred for demons, but even after she learns that not all of them are evil and that he's clearly on her side, she continues to criticize him. Watching this unfold was just disappointing, especially because I really like her outside of this adaptation. They did her dirty in this show, and I don't understand why they chose to write her like this. It got so bad that I stopped rooting for her entirely in the last 2 episodes. If this version of Lady was taken out of the show and Dante was given more screen time instead, I think it would have turned out much more enjoyable. And I wouldn't have minded her on screen so much if she was actually likable, but she isn't, so it just feels like a waste of her character and a waste of everyone watching's time. Moving on, the world this show is set in is good, but not anything super interesting. I actually liked the explanation of the separate worlds of Makai and Earth, and I really didn't mind the changes to the lore. Even though unfaithful, it still made for an interesting twist that fit the narrative they're trying to sell. Also, rest in peace to Kevin Conroy. His performance as Vice President Baines is, of course, really great. I have no major thoughts on the other side characters, but I need to get into spoilers to explain the rest of my thoughts, so spoiler warning from here on out. Okay. This show constantly drives the point home that, unlike in the games, there are a ton of demons in Makai that aren't actually evil and are basically just humans that look like lizards, for some reason. This change is a weird one, because it completely recontextualizes Sparta's sacrifice and his choice to cut off the worlds from one another. For those who don't know, Sparta is Dante's dad, and he was an extremely powerful demon who realized that they were in the wrong, so he fought back against demonkind to save humanity. He did this by sealing off Makai and trapping all demons there for eternity, not allowing them to cross over to the human world. But apparently, he was unaware of all the innocent demons living normal lives in Makai, who are constantly hunted by powerful demons and suffer from the toxic air down there. Now, you can interpret this in different ways, but Sparta still willingly chose to leave what is presumably thousands or even millions of these human-like demons to suffer, just because of the more powerful ones that want to cross over. This adaptation constantly shows you just how human these demons can be, which makes the White Rabbit's motivation and hatred for Sparta more valid, but makes Sparta himself seem less and less like the full-on hero from the games. Devil May Cry lore establishes that demons are for the most part all evil and want only to prey on humanity. There are, of course, exceptions. The whole Devils Never Cry thing is a big part of the franchise, but like 99% of them are monsters that need to be put down by Dante and other demon hunters. Sparta's motivation makes way more sense in the canon, whereas in this version, his decision is a lot more gray. If this gets a second season, maybe they'll address this, but right now, it's just a strange choice. All of this connects to the larger debate in the community about the political messaging surrounding demons and the American invasion of Makai. At the end of the season, Lady, for some reason, betrays Dante for like the third time in the show, even though she had just seen how evil Baines was, and gives him the key to open the portal between worlds. Right after, the American forces invade Hell and bomb a ton of innocent demons, imprisoning thousands of them and setting up large facilities down there for some unexplained reason. This is assumed to be an allegory for the American invasion of the Middle East in the early 2000s, as the time period makes sense, and it isn't exactly subtle with its message. In my opinion, this is a very stupid twist. It doesn't help that the entire segment has American Idiot playing over it, which is a good song, but it makes the sequence even more jarring. I can see what they're trying to do, but it just doesn't work with this show and with this franchise. During the invasion, we also see Dante get put into a cryo chamber by the government after Lady tased him and put him to sleep. We also see Baines working with Arius, the main villain from DMC2, which is an awful game. No, we are not changing the narrative on this, no matter how many people on Twitter are suddenly saying otherwise. DMC2 sucks. Anyways, the ending of this show was really bad and unsatisfying, relying on a second season to properly explain the nonsense we were forced to endure in those last few minutes. Also, the real Virgil's introduction in that last scene was pretty dumb, and the alternate version of Bury the Light they played was just not it. I don't know why they didn't use the original song by Casey Edwards, but the whole ending is pretty bad anyways, so it fits in perfectly. I clearly had issues with the ending and the characterization of Lady, but besides those two big flaws, I still think there's a lot to enjoy within these 8 episodes. In my opinion, the action scenes are great, the animation is stellar, albeit with a heavy use of CG, but I had fun watching through almost all of it. I'm curious to see what people who aren't familiar with the franchise think of the show, since they won't have anything to base their opinions and knowledge on. So if you watch this show and haven't played the games, let me know what you thought of it all. I think that this adaptation is way less faithful, but also more entertaining than the 2007 anime. Of course, you can disagree with me, that's totally fine, but I just found myself way more engaged with this one than that series. I do like how the 2007 one is actually canon and more lore accurate to the franchise, but to me, it got pretty stale. Now that I've shared my thoughts, I want to talk a bit more about that online reaction. After I finished the show, I went online to see what other fans of DMC thought of it. At first, it was fine, but eventually, the community took a turn for the worse. There are way too many people online gatekeeping the franchise and telling others what the quote-unquote right opinion is. Many are blindly hating on this adaptation, even though most of them probably haven't even watched it. Now, I can't say the hate is completely without its merits, as I've already explained, but what does hating on others' opinions and attacking voice actors accomplish? You can hate this show or think it's the greatest piece of media ever created. It doesn't affect me, and why should it? Just don't go online and start policing other people about what the right opinion to have is. Instead, get off Twitter and go to this new platform called Outside. There's this thing called grass that these people would really benefit from touching. Of course, my viewers would never need that PSA, because only intellectuals of the highest degree watch my videos. Anytime I open Twitter now, I'm bombarded with a ton of different opinions on this new adaptation, and I've never seen this community become so toxic and full of hate for others. It's embarrassing. Genuine constructive criticism to the creators can prompt a second season that actually learns from its mistakes, but attacking the creators and animation studio helps absolutely no one. This is the newest DMC content we've received in like 6 years, and the show really isn't that bad. But even if you don't like it at all, is this not more attention being given to the series that these same people claim to enjoy? I can understand not liking the way they handle these characters, but not only is the series not canon, no one is forcing them to watch it. All of a sudden, people are defending the reboot game in DMC2 solely because they hated this show. There's really people retconning their opinions because of this new adaptation. Be so for real. Is the show perfect? Hell no! But regardless of your opinion, it's extremely corny to hate on others just because they disagree with yours. It's important to watch things for yourself before blindly agreeing or disagreeing with what other people say online. You may find something you actually like, but thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. As a big fan of the series, I had to put my thoughts out on all of it, including the controversies. I'll see you all in the next one though. Bye for now.